Hi, I'm Rin. I'm a financial educator. I meet a lot of people who have many queries around mutual fund, and the idea behind this podcast is really to bring out how mutual funds have helped people in their financial journey. So today, I have with me Rashika. Rashika is a corporate lawyer with over 23 years of experience, and she currently runs her own law practice. She's also an external member on the ICC committee at various corporates. So, thank you for being here with us today, Rashika. I would like to start by asking you if you can share a bit about your financial journey. When did you start investing and how did you get into it?
Great. Firstly, thanks, Mrin, for having me over. Like you just mentioned, I have been working since 94, and the first piece of investment that I made was, back then was in the usual policies. I did pick up some real estate before I got married. So my financial journey really is as old as my profession.
Okay. And what prompted you to actually move from traditional investments into mutual funds?
Good question. I got married, and when I had my child, that's when we first got introduced to the whole concept of mutual funds. So we had a certain relationship manager in a certain bank who kind of exposed this entire world to us, and that's when he told us about how mutual funds work. So my mutual fund journey is almost 13 years old.
So, how did you decide which funds to actually start with?
Okay, so because initially the whole world of mutual funds was very new for myself and my husband. So the advisor that we met, he kind of walked us through the journey on how mutual funds work, etc. We discussed with him our long-term goals, basis which he gave suggestions on how mutual funds work and what he did a profiling of us in terms of whether we fall within the category of high risk takers or medium risk and low risk. Basis that the suggestions came. So that's really how it all began.
So, can you share with us some of the type of funds that you've invested into? Like, have you invested in equity funds or bond funds? And what is the sort of funds that you've invested and why?
And within the debt and equity, we did a mix of long term and mid term. Again, like I said, keeping in mind long term goals, etc.
So, you basically had a goal in mind for the investments that you've done.
Absolutely.
And what could be these goals if you could share with us?
Sure. So, I think absolutely. I mean, again, because I guess my husband and I both come from a defense background and we do tend to be maybe a little more organized, etc. So, we were very sure at that point in time, in terms of goals, we wanted to, number one, cater for our son's higher education. That was the first goal we were looking at. And also figure out that what kind of a corpus we are required to build for our retirement plans, because we both knew that we had at least 2 decades of work life, but beyond that, what? So those were the two primary goals that drove us into getting into mutual funds.
Great, that sounds really good. So now, since you've been investing in funds for a while, you would have seen that there have been times when the markets have actually fallen and the times when markets have actually risen very fast. So, what is your typical reaction if you see the markets falling?
When we started our journey with mutual funds, we were not looking at short term benefits. We were very clear that we were in that game, for a long haul. We were very clear about that. So, yes, there was a point in time where the funds that we invested in kind of did go nosedive. But, because we were very sure that we were looking at long term, the advice we got from all over was stay invested if you don't have a requirement to pull out the money. And that's exactly what we did. So while we did see the nosedive, it was
Did it worry you?
Little bit, to be honest. But like I said, our whole goal was not to. We are not the type who would monitor it on a day-to-day basis.
Great.
We knew that we are looking at a 10 or a 15-year horizon. We were very clear about that. So there were moments of worry, but the worry was not so much that we had to pull it out. No, we were very clear. It did nosedive a little, like I said, but keeping in mind the long-term horizon, we knew that stay invested. And to be fair, all of them picked up beautifully thereafter.
Okay, that's very good
Yeah.
insights. And finally, can you share with us one key takeaway of how mutual funds have helped you in your financial life?
Sure. I think the first thing I would say here is, when we started our mutual fund journey, at the end of every month, we had our SIPs in place, etc. So money from our account would get pulled out and, get invested in mutual fund. And the leftover is what we viewed upon as money that we could expend. So that was the first thing we did. In terms of our biggest takeaway, Honestly, I think both. I speak that for, I say that even for my husband. Both of us felt that mutual fund gave us a very high sense of security. The security really stemmed from the fact that we looked upon mutual fund as a very liquid asset. So the whole thinking was that if, God forbid, there is a dire need in the household tomorrow to liquidate that asset and get the monies in, we knew that mutual fund will be able to give us that elbow room to liquidate in 24 hours time, as opposed to maybe real estate. And yeah, and obviously it also helped us achieve goals that we had in mind. So for us, it has been a win-win situation.
Great, that's really good to know. So, if I could sum up, I think it's really nice to have spoken to someone who's been investing in funds for a while and is not really perturbed with the volatility that comes with market linked investments. What I really liked about what Rashika said was that the fact that mutual funds, number one, provided her an avenue to invest towards her goals. Number two, it gave her liquidity as well as required. And number three, it also gave her a high sense of security in the fact that she knew that her money was being well managed. So, Rashika, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast today, and happy investing.
Thank you so much.